Phosphor.fans, earl@logbook.com, back once more playing the Atari 2600 as one does, and today we are going to be trying out Atari's excellent, really, quite frankly, excellent 1984 port of Junior Pac-Man. Junior Pac-Man was one of the games that Midway devised to extend its chokehold on the Pac-Man license in the United States. It was not necessarily a game that Namco fully approved of, but I'm sure Namco got a little bit of money out of the deal, so they got over any butthurt they might have felt out of the situation. It's fairly fast-moving. As you can see, it borrows pretty heavily from the... Man, I'm glad I didn't catch up with him. That would have allowed him to eat me. Sort of like those guys just did. Borrows very heavily from how Ms. Pac-Man was ported to the 2600 in terms of the maze layout, the fact that everything is a dash instead of a dot, and only people old enough to know what Morse code is will get that. And it does have the destructive bonus prizes that will enlarge the dots and make them more difficult for Junior Pac-Man to digest if left to roam the maze unchecked. Ah! I think I got them all. And then they got me. So, game over there. Junior Pac-Man, thanks for joining us. No, just kidding. I'll see if I can play a slightly better game. I was using my arcade controls there. Let me actually use my keyboard and see if that gives me a little easier time controlling things, because the response time and kind of the throw of an arcade stick is not how the game was meant to be played, so that was an unsuccessful experiment. Of course, this might be as well. Oh, why? I'm chasing them, they're chasing me. Who's in charge here? Who's eating who? Oh! That went well. That also went well. Okay. As you can see, very much like the arcade game, the maze scrolls, so you don't really see the entire screen at any one time. However, it was more practical and less disruptive to the way the Atari 2600 handles graphics to have the maze scroll vertically rather than horizontally. Not that it's helping me in either regard. This port really seems to be moving faster than I remember the arcade game moving. I don't remember having quite such a difficult time in the arcade with this game. And, I've had the occasion to test that recently. I'm not terrible at Junior Pac-Man, although you can be forgiven for thinking I am from watching me play the 2600 version. The 1984 copyright date on this is interesting because, if I am not mistaken, this cartridge did not come out until after that. Because, oh, no wonder it's No wonder I'm playing such a good game. I'm not playing. It's the attract mode. If I'm not mistaken, the cartridge did not actually come out in 1984. I may be misremembering this and conflating it with the Atari 7800 library, but the thinking there being that Atari's home video game division had been more or less put into suspended animation after the sale of Atari to Jack Tramiel. Because he wanted to use Atari chiefly to get back at Commodore, whose board had just ousted him as CEO of that company. And the way to get back at Commodore was to turn Atari into a computer company rather than a game company. And so things like the Atari 7800 and some of these latter-day Atari 2600 games, they may have a copyright date of 1984, and they may look very much like they were made in 1984, but they didn't necessarily come out the same year as the copyright on the box. Get everybody? I got everybody. I didn't want anyone to feel left out there. Ah! I want to feel left out of being eaten. You know, however briefly it is possible to do so in this game. Okay, doing a bit better here. If I remember correctly, this port and the original arcade game were both devised by General Computer Corporation, which also originated Ms. Pac-Man and ported it to the 2600. Atari had kind of a sweetheart deal with GCC that a lot of the really good arcade ports of later years of the 2600 library came about because of that deal with GCC, because they really seemed to be able to do an excellent job of milking the 2600 for all of the, you know, audio-visual quality that it was capable of, and doing so unobtrusively. Now, the ghosts are a bit flickery in this game, but certainly not as flickery as the ghosts in Atari's own original port of Pac-Man. And so that, again, is sort of a testament to GCC knowing what it was doing with the 2600, which that was a really lucky deal that Atari struck with them, seeing how many people had, you know, there had been something of a mass exodus of programmers leaving Atari and going to either Activision or Magic or elsewhere. So General Computer Corporation was something of a godsend for Atari in those days. And this is a reasonably good, really speedy port of Junior Pac-Man on that platform that, you know, I kind of wonder if a lot of people were aware this was even out in the day, because it seems to be awfully easy to find an almost minty fresh, still in the box copy of it, which is not something you can say about a lot of 2600 games.